On behalf of VMUG, I'd like to welcome you to today's webcast, Working with Enterprise Mobility Apps and Security, presented by Paul Browers, Senior Cloud Architect, ECEI. Thank you for participating in today's webcast and for your continued support in the global VMUG program. Before we begin, I have three quick housekeeping items to go over. First, today's webcast will be recorded and available for you on demand. You will receive a follow-up email with the on-demand link, so keep an eye out for that. Second, a question and answer session will follow today's presentation. All questions will need to be entered in the question window near the bottom of your GoToWebinar screen. Third, there will be a short online evaluation that pops up as you exit the webcast. Please take a moment and let us know what you thought of today's session and what you might like to see going forward. Attendees from today's webcast will be entered into a drawing to win a $100 Amazon gift card. A representative from ECEI will email the winner directly following the webcast today, so good luck. All right, let's get started. I'd like to introduce you to today's speaker, Paul Browers, Senior Cloud Architect, ECEI. Paul, I'll turn it over to you now.
Thank you so much. Welcome, everyone. Today, we're going to be talking about VMware Workspace One and empowering employees with a digital workspace. My contact information is at the bottom of this first slide. If there are any follow-up questions or things you guys want to know, just reach out to me and I can get back to you pretty quickly. Quickly about myself, I've been with Eastern for 6 years. Prior to this, I was on the customer side as a senior architect in the virtualization space. I've been a VMware guy since the 2.x days. Also on the line, we have Steve Blake, who is on the implementation side here at Eastern Computer. Steve, if you want to give yourself a quick introduction.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. I've been with Eastern for about 4 years. I come from a consulting and hosting background. I've been working with VMware since the 3.x days.
Thanks, Steve. So between Steve and I, today we'll be talking about first Eastern Computer, just a quick slide about who we are and what we do. I will then be talking about Workspace One as a product and its feature sets. We'll keep the architecture slides to a minimum and the salesy slides to a minimum and really get into the technical details of what Workspace One is and what it provides to customers. And then we'll have a demo. A note about the demo is typically the demonstration for Workspace One is usually about a 60 to 90-minute presentation in its own. So Steve and I have pulled out kind of key parts of Workspace One that we think are relevant. If you would like to see further, deeper dive demonstrations, that is definitely something we can arrange. And we can also provide access into a sandbox system that would allow you to play with Workspace One with some of your own devices and in your own environment. So we can talk about that towards the end, and then we'll open it up for Q&A about 10-15 minutes at the end. With that, we'll get started. So about Eastern, Eastern Computer has been around for almost 30 years. We were born in the data center back in the early 90s as more of an IBM exchange partner. As kind of the industry progressed, we quickly latched on with EMC and have been an EMC partner since the very early days. As EMC has grown and the industry has shifted, we've picked up partnerships with Cisco and VMware, and then the Dell EMC merger or acquisition back a couple years ago. We hold the highest level certifications and partnership levels with the major manufacturers in the world. And we deal with customers anywhere from small to medium businesses all the way up to Fortune 100, Fortune 50 companies. We do have a very heavy technical staff. I think the number today is 4 or 5 technical people to every salesperson. So we are very tech heavy and certification heavy with our partner ecosystem. And we also are a global company. We have operations and people in somewhere around 45 to 50 countries, I think is the current number. So if you are a large global company, we can help with solutions around the world and procurement around the world, which makes it a little bit unique compared to some of our competitors. With that, we'll get into Workspace One. I really only have 2 kind of salesy slides, this one and a pricing slide. Really what this is about is empowering employees to do their work how they need to work and in ways that best suit them, right? So in my day, when I first started in the IT world, I was given a laptop with a standard image that was locked down. I was approved my 10 or 15 apps that I needed to do my job. and that's what I got. Nowadays, we are seeing more and more in the customer space with the kind of the next generation of workers, as well as the way that software is being delivered to these employees. They need more flexibility to do their job and get the job done the way that they need to get it done. So whether that's SaaS-based apps, maybe they have one-off apps for marketing that they need need last minute. Gone are the days where we can say, well, give us a month or two to validate this, package it up, put it into our deployment system, have it pushed out to the folks in the department. Those days are long gone. So the goal of Workspace One is to help ease that transition and make it seamless for the end user and give them a consistent experience across all their devices, no matter where they are. Part of the issue with that, though, is that where we used to be able to put the crunchy perimeter around the outside, we can lock down workstations and laptops to say you can't install anything, and we can use GPO to manage what users can see and what they can do. Those days are gone, right? So we need to be able to support the flexible work style that people have today. We need to ensure that we're providing security as we always have, because if you read the news at any given time, you can see tons of threats and data loss. So we need to prevent that while enabling the employees to do what they want, when they want, and on whatever device they're using. When we look at security, when we talk about security, historically, there have been a ton of silos within security, right? So we've got everything from the infrastructure security around, your servers. We've got risk and compliance we need to deal with, mobility security, web security, application security, everything on this kind of eye chart around various partners and the ecosystem of providing security across devices. On the flip side, by implementing all these restrictive policies, we kind of created a poor end user experience, right? So, in the past, we've had to, if I needed to install a new app that I had found or I want to try out, I couldn't do it on my Windows machine, right? Or I've had to remember 50 different passwords to get into, from my perspective today even, to get into the VMware Partner Portal or to get into Salesforce or to get into my Outlook and my Exchange or my Gmail. Those are all separate passwords, and how do we deal with that? Also existing are silos within our own IT departments, right? When I was on the customer side, this screen kind of spoke exactly to what we dealt with, right? We had the mobility team who handled the phones and laptops. We had the desktop team that would deal with your traditional desktops, and you had your line of business folks who were saying, well, we need this application or that application, and we need it now. We don't want to wait 2-3 months, right? And so creating these silos has really impacted negatively the end user experience, right? We actually had a customer who did a survey of their own, and it was something like 23% of millennials said they would last at the job less than a year if they were not able to use whatever device they wanted and could access the app that they thought they needed for their productivity. And this was a Fortune 100 company. So we are seeing that, especially with the changing of what the workforce looks like today and how the workforce has grown up consuming applications and devices. This is a huge challenge inside of IT organizations. And so then we've got this gap, right? So we have to be able to provide our users with choice and flexibility on any device, everywhere they might be. But we've got these security concerns. And like I said earlier, every day we're reading in the news about one breach or another that we have to be cognizant about when dealing with data. And so what Workspace One is truly the first digital workspace platform that kind of breaks across the silos. It combines, a unified experience and a unified app catalog with a layer of identity management for security, such as single sign-on and multi-factor authentication to help prevent data loss in the future. So it helps break down kind of those silos we had talked about between, the mobility teams, the security teams, the line of business, the desktop teams, and really provides 5 different, benefits to the end user. The first is the experience. So from a customer standpoint, your end users, the ability to deliver a consistent experience, whether you're on a mobile device, a desktop, laptop, even out to rugged and Internet of Things type devices, wearables, provide them a consistent experience. The second focus area is a self-service app catalog, right? So think of one place that you can launch to get to your corporate email, your intranet sites, your SaaS-based applications that your business needs to function, as well as a modern management platform, right? So a lot of times today we have multiple different tools out there to manage endpoints, whether it's SCCM or you're delivering apps through Google Play Store or what have you. Let's modernize that management aspect along with providing insights. So a big problem that's always happened in industry is who's using these applications, how many times are they using the applications. We've got maybe application ABC that's licensed for 1,000 users, but only 50 people are ever using it on a regular basis, but we're paying for these licenses. How do we get some insight and some data about the end user experience, as well as some automation? So when we start talking about workflows and triggering different workflows within certain apps, so maybe I click on something inside of Salesforce and that prompts me to email an attachment or a quote. How do we automate some of these things that today are a manual effort, right? And so the goal is not just to help you implement the digital workspace, but to monitor, to maintain, and to secure it on an ongoing basis, while still providing a good user experience. And so we'll kind of talk about those 5 things individually. Consumer simple. So really, how do we make an onboarding experience for the customer consistent across the board, whether it's a tablet, a laptop, an iOS, an Android, a Windows machine, right? So there's a number of ways we can do this, and we'll get into a demo of some of this, but one of the real powerful things that Workspace One brings, and this is part of, Workspace One has kind of been built out of a couple different products. When we think back to VMware Horizon or View, the VDI experience, as well as the AirWatch acquisition a number of years ago. This has been building for 5-6 years now to get this consistent consumer-friendly experience. So when we talk about onboarding, we can either onboard people into Workspace One over the air. So we can tie into, Apple's GPP stuff. We can talk about, over the air provisioning of devices, native new devices. So things that may have never touched your network before, deliver policies down to those machines, deliver approved applications, set security policies on those machines when they're first pulled out of the box from your employee. So, it might be you have a remote field salesperson who starts in Japan. You could have them purchase their device and go through a simple website to enroll themselves into Workspace One, and then all of these policies are pushed down over the air, right? Helps us manage the full life cycle of the device and support, ease the supportability of these devices because everyone is using it kind of a consistent interface for everything. The other aspect is a simple way to access any application. So the issue you're going to run into, or many people run into, is you've got people who have their laptops out there, their cell phones out there that even might be provided by the enterprise. However, they want to be able to install their own apps. They want to put Facebook on there, or they want to put Candy Crush on their laptop. But you still need to maintain and make sure that the vulnerabilities aren't hitting those machines or being able to access your corporate data, right? So through Workspace One, we can create a simple application catalog that allows role-based or geolocation-based access to different applications, and it's one place for everyone to go and get their apps. So gone are the days of having to call the help desk, say, hey, I need this app or that app. Through roles, and we can tie into various directory services and such, we can provide your users with the applications that they may need, right? It's also single sign-on, so we can tie into, like I said, many identity providers and provide them with a single place and a single password to log into, and then in the back end through SAML or various other technologies we can tie into various systems and allow single sign-on. A lot of times I was just with a customer yesterday, and their big pain point is they've got 15 different logins throughout the day that their CIO needs to log into. That causes a real headache, right? The self-service aspect we kind of talked about in the last slide, but from day one, a consumer, a customer of IT can enroll their own device through a very simple link, and we'll go through this in the demo, and get access to the application. Now, say you have some sort of user who is in a cross-functional role and they need to get to an application that they don't have today. There are workflows in here to say, hey, I think I need to get to Salesforce, put in the request, and there can be an approval factor and all that sort of thing. And then privacy. This goes back to the whole Candy Crush Facebook thing. We have a way to fence off corporate applications versus personal applications. So if you are in a mode where you allow customers to bring their own devices, they have their own cell phone, we can separate out corporate mail and corporate files from personal items. And so when they maybe leave the organization, we can wipe their corporate data while not blowing up their kids' pictures and everything else, which has been a long challenge for IT departments. So overall, what we're trying to do here is, reduce the deployment time for new apps, get rid of password type problems, improve your help desk life, improve time to productivity, and overall improve satisfaction with IT. Back to the security conversation, there are a number of things that come with Workspace One to enhance security while still enabling your users to do what they need to do. So there's Workspace One is the whole product. That's kind of your single access to all the apps. There is Boxer, which is intelligent, secure mail application. So think of this as, here's a way for you to access your corporate exchange email securely, and we can prevent things like you copying and pasting things out to your Gmail account, which is your personal account, on the same phone or on the same laptop, right? There's a secure browser. So this allows secure access to corporate intranet sites. So I could be on my PC at home and I need to get to my HR system real quick. I could log into my Workspace One environment, launch my HR ADP website, but intelligently, Workspace One knows that needs to be launched through a secure browser on the corporate network and not through your, Firefox or Chrome on your local PC. And so it can do the redirection there. Content Locker, which is secure access to corporate content repositories, so file servers and that sort of thing, where we can control, copying and pasting and moving things around, as well as people search. This is kind of the social cast part of a VMware acquisition a long time ago, where you can search for colleagues and see who they are and what they do. Now we'll talk about all the apps as part of the digital workspace. So, when we think about an app portal, that covers SaaS-based apps, your email, those sort of things. But what about, those people who need to get at legacy Windows apps? 30% of the apps today are still considered, complex to deploy and to support, and most of those apps are Windows-based applications. So how do we provide access to those? As part of Workspace One, we can provide your traditional Horizon desktops, right? So that allows, your desktop and app management, image management, updates and monitoring analytics of those desktops. And we can deploy those either in your private cloud. We can provide it through the VMware Managed Cloud, which is an IBM product. Today, they also have support for Azure, so you can bring your own cloud-based desktops. We have a lot of customers because of the way Microsoft does their EAs. They have a lot of Azure spend already today, and they already have an environment set up in Azure. So if you're looking to do, virtual desktops for legacy Windows applications, a lot of times Azure makes a lot of sense financially just because it's already part of the ecosystem that you're supporting today. As well as service provider cloud, so Rackspace and the like. And again, this all comes back down to a single, simple experience for all your applications and for all your users. So we'll go through this a little bit in the demo, but you can see As an example, here on your tablet, you might have, an Access database that is running out on a Horizon desktop. You might have Excel 2016 that's running out on a Horizon desktop because you need Horizon or Excel 2016 for macro usage, and you're on your iOS device. So how do you provide, these native known Excel programs to an iOS device? We can do that through Horizon. We could talk about, corporate intranet sites delivered through here, etc. Now we're going to get into the unified endpoint management. So this is, again, goes back to the AirWatch acquisition a number of years ago. And it's a holistic user-centric management approach to managing and serving any application to any device from a single platform, right? So that means whether we're talking, desktops, laptops, PCs, tablets, phones, rugged devices. I don't know what this icon is. Maybe it's a shaver, an electric razor, an Internet of Things, watches, glasses, and not just your traditional, iOS, Android, and Windows, but there is support for QNX, Windows CE, Tizen, and a couple other operating systems that you may not think about today. But when we're talking about embedded systems or Internet of Things, we can also tie into those platforms as well. And across any platform on any device, right? So whether this is a consumer's desktop that they own at home, or if it's a corporate asset, we want to be able to provide that endpoint management across all devices. This is, again, just talks about the different areas that this plays in and what it's supported. The idea is that it's cloud first, multi-tenant, and so we talk about Workspace One. We have a couple different ways to deploy Workspace One. We can either do it as a SaaS offering that is hosted either on a shared cloud by VMware, or you can get your own personal Workspace One deployment, or you can do it on-premise as well, and then connect up to your various SaaS applications. It is widely supported across the globe, so 17 plus languages. So all the language packs are installed. It is also very customizable, and we'll go through this with the demo. So you can custom brand Workspace One across your devices, so it will show your corporate logos and those sort of things. And it is currently the enterprise mobility management leader in the market space. On the left-hand side, you can see how the things it supports, whether it's iOS, Android, Win 10. So and it's not just mobile device management, but complete PC lifecycle management. I mean, we'll talk about that in a second. Apple DEP, and then non-traditional endpoints like kiosks and wearables and those sort of things. And what's the benefit of this? So traditionally, from the desktop standpoint, it's fairly high touch, lots of help desk calls, getting applications deployed is difficult. Configuring things, you have to be on the network talking to AD. Patching can be a real pain. And security could be, anywhere from real good to real bad. And so what we're trying to do here through PC management, or actually device management, is, out of the box productivity day one. Everything can be configured over the air, so I don't need to be on my corporate network to do things or to get patches. And move this more to a cloud scale OpEx model versus a CapEx, along with real-time detection and remediation for issues. One thing we do run into a lot is a lot of customers already have especially around the Windows world, SCCM is already out there. There's already lots of effort been put into application packaging and deployment methodologies and patching and all of those sort of things. So what VMware has come out with is Airlift, and this sits in your environment, and it's a server-side connector with a web-based admin portal. So basically, this allows us to talk from Workspace One to your traditional SCCM environment and be able to manage or deploy things that you've done in SCCM, and those things that you've already put the effort into, use Workspace One to deliver those type of things. see how we doing on time here. Okay, so the last real big piece is the intelligence. So, we see a lot of customers who they don't know what's happening on the endpoints, right? And with all the things here that we have to ingest data from, whether it's Horizon, UEM, which is the endpoint management, the identity management, we can ingest all of the data we're gathering from there and then push out dashboards and reports, notifications around compliance, et cetera. So kind of walk through this real quick. We can see things like, how long has it been taking to install patches? Maybe somebody goes off the network for a week or two, they're a salesperson, and they don't have their Wi-Fi turned on because they're at customer sites. How long is this really taking to deploy patches, right? What are people doing with their applications, right? So how are the applications performing? How are they being adopted? And what are people doing with their apps, right? Are they going into Salesforce and then they're, moving over to Excel and then they're copying something or uploading back into Salesforce? And is there a way that we can automate some of these workflows to enable a quicker or better user experience? And then the last kind of section is back around security and the Workspace One Trust Network. This is something that's fairly new. And what it does is it combines insights from Workspace One and an ecosphere of verified security partners to allow the ingestion of security principles and security policies into the Workspace One world and allow you to automate and report on security threats, vulnerabilities, and remediation steps. So really, this is just a way to try and simplify, if you remember back to the beginning of the presentation, all these different silos. This is to try and help break down those silos, provide the security, comprehensive security approach across the entire workspace and across all devices and all applications, no matter what network these people are on, right? My second sales slide is just how this is priced. Now, these are all list pricings. Obviously, working with your partners in VMware, you can work with us. We can talk about pricing a little bit more in depth. But there are basically 5 versions of Workspace One today, or 4 versions, of Workspace One today, from standard to enterprise for VDI. And so, kind of left to right here, the standard version basically gives you the access to the application portal and single sign-on. So your very basic kind of app deployment ecosphere. Advanced steps it up so that you get the frictionless access to your intranet sites through Workspace One Web, Content Locker for the secure file access. It provides Boxer for secure email access, and then a product called Workspace One Send, which is a way for integration between Microsoft Intune and Workspace One for Office attachments to make sure that, think of it like a DLP like experience. And that's something else we can get into maybe on a different conversation you can have with your VMware rep or whoever. There is a lot of things here that we're kind of quickly going through because of time restrictions, but there's a whole world around DLP and Intune integration that we haven't touched on today if you are a Microsoft shop. Enterprise is what will provide you with the intelligence and automation, dashboards, app analytics, mobile workflows, and then enterprise for VDI includes Horizon. So what your traditional Horizon Enterprise would be is included in the last one here with everything else that's been discussed. You do have kind of 2 choices, per device or per user. The per user allows up to 5 devices, whereas the per device is obviously just a device. This is usually a math game of, kind of finding the sweet spot between, maybe your field sales folks need a per user license because it makes more sense because they've got their laptop, their phone, their tablets at home, whereas maybe your call center, Windows 10 desktop only needs a device license, right? So that's a conversation to be had when you kind of get down the path. And then to kind of wrap up the presentation, what is VMware's vision? It really is any application across any device, anywhere in the world, and across any cloud. So whether that's your private cloud, your hybrid cloud, a public cloud, whether that's Azure, AWS, VMware's cloud on AWS, provide that consistent experience for your end users, no matter where they are or what they're doing. And with that, we will get into the demo. Steve Blake will be running through this. Just a quick agenda. We'll go through the UEM console, device registration and launching Workspace One, access the console, so managing user access and delivering SaaS applications, and then the consumer experience. So what does it look like from a an iOS device or an Android device? And again, these conversations are multiple hours usually. So there's a lot more that we can show, and we're happy to talk to you post this WebEx. And with that, I will turn it over to Steve. And let me get this demo. Steve, can you see this?
Yep. Yeah. Go ahead and press play.
Okay.
So, like Paul said, we're going to kind of speed through some of this in the interest of time. So the first thing we're going to do is actually go through a user creation in Workspace One UEM. Now we're just adding in some test users locally to the local system domain. And normally you would have a connector back to your Active Directory or to your Okta, and your users will be synchronized. However, for the purpose of the demo, again, we're just creating some local user accounts with some test companies. So we're going to go ahead and click on Save and Add a Device. And we're going to associate a Windows 10 device with our newly created user. So we're going to go ahead and select our user, and we're going to click on Add Device. And we're going to give it a friendly name. Call it Windows 10B. And then we're going to change our device ownership. Now you can choose between dedicated, shared, and corporate, or you can choose from employee-owned. This registration will generate an email back to the user. I'll show you an example of that email. Okay, and important thing here on the email is that they have a couple ways to register. They can use the server URL, the group ID and username password. Alternatively, they can also use the QR code and associated email address. It's playing a little bit slow, so we'll go ahead and click on Save. This is a pre-recorded demo that we have that we're watching. So what we're going to do now is go ahead and launch the Workspace One application on our demo Windows 10 device. So we're going ahead and download the Intelligence Hub, and we're going to install this on our Windows 10 device. So we'll go ahead and launch it. We'll go ahead and click on Next. There is ways to automate this. Again, this is just walking you through kind of a manual install. For larger scale, obviously, you would want to automate the install and do bulk processing. So we're going to go ahead and click on Finish. And we're going to launch the AirWatch enrollment. Go ahead and click on Yes. And now, again, this is where you can check your email or the server details. For our demonstration, we're going to go ahead and enter in our credentials. So we'll input in our server URL, our group ID, our demo user, and we'll go ahead and click on Next. And then we'll click Finish and enroll the device. Now, once that device has been enrolled, we're going to come over to the dashboard and we're going to create a device profile. You can see that our device has been registered. We can see that in the list view. So we're going to now go in and create a device profile. Now, device profiles is where you can actually control settings for your devices. And you can control for with Android, Apple, Mac, as you can see here, rugged devices, pretty much anything else. But we're going to focus on the Windows 10 desktop, and we're going to focus on device profile for our demonstration. So we're going to create a Windows Update policy profile. So we're going to go ahead and name our device profile, and we're going to come down and we're going to select our smart group of corporate devices. And we're going to confirm that we can see our devices. So we're going to click on View Assignments so we can see our 2 test machines. And now we're going to configure the payload. So the payload, as you can see on the left, you have different options that you can configure, but we're going to focus on Windows Update. So we're going to click on Configure. And we're going to only change one thing for this demonstration. We're just going to scroll down and change insider builds to not allowed. And we're going to save and publish this profile. Once you save and publish the profile does take effect immediately on the device. And we're going to create another one just to see this again. So we're going to go back into our Windows platform, and we're going to select the Windows desktop device profile, and this time we're going to create an antivirus policy. So we're going to go in and name it. And then we're going to configure the antivirus payload after we do our group assignment. So we're going to configure our antivirus payload. And in this payload, we're going to change a few different settings. We're going to enable real-time monitoring. We're going to go ahead and modify the schedule scanning. We'll enable full-time and quick scan. And then we'll come down toward the bottom, and we will turn on scan removable drives and scan archive drives. All right, and then we'll actually, you know what, we'll go ahead and configure, let's go ahead and set the remove quarantine files. We'll set that to 1 week. We'll save and publish this, and again, publish. So we're going to jump over and reboot our Windows 10. We're going to create a compliance policy first. So the compliance policy basically enforces the profile. So if the profile is not applied, it will take action. So we're going to add in our 2 rules to our compliance policy. So we'll set antivirus to if it's not good, and we'll set the Windows Update to where if it's not it will trigger. So we'll go ahead and adjust these. So you have different options. You can do is or is not rules, and you can see with Windows Update you have different options there. But we're going to just keep it simple and say if it's not set to automatic. Multiple options. You can do notification. You can do a command. You can do application. We're going to change it to application, and we're going to block the managed apps being delivered to the device. So we're going to give this thing the assignment. We're going to smart group of corporate. Finally, give it a name, right? So we'll just call it corporate compliance for simplicity. And then we're going to finish and activate this compliance policy. Once we finish and activate the compliance policy, we'll reboot our Windows 10 device, and then we'll go into My Device Profile, which is a tab your users can go into to get status of what condition their device is in and what profiles and applications are deployed. So this is my device. We're going to switch over to Group ID and Authenticate. As you can see, status is now, if I wanted to get more device itself, I can go to details. I can check to see if it's in compliance. I can see what profiles are deployed and what applications are deployed. You can see our 2 new device profiles now are set to automatic. They're active and they're on the machine. You can also use your dashboard and use your dashboard view to get information on your devices, whether you have encryption deployed, whether you have passcodes active or not, last seen, the ownership type. You have a variety of information that can be displayed on the dashboard itself. So we're going to switch gears now and go over to Workspace One Access. Again, for the purpose of the demo, we're just going to create a simple system domain user. In a real-world scenario, your users would be synchronized to your Active Directory, your Okta, whatever directory of choice that you have for security. And once we create that user, we're going to come back over to our Windows 10 device and activate that user account. Workspace One Access, which is formerly the VMware IDM, and Workspace One UEM obviously work together via API calls to give the user the seamless experience of accessing and authenticating for their applications. So we're going to log into the Workspace One portal now that we have our Workspace One Access user created. And as you can see here, we don't have any applications. So we're going to add in an application to Workspace One. So we're going to add a SaaS-based app, which is the VMware or the Dropbox app. We're going to add this from VMware's list of applications. There's 104 pre-configured applications. We're going to give it a category. We're going to just go with the default recommended, but you can create custom categories. And then you can configure your access policies and the SAML authentication rules any way necessary for your application, for your requirements. For the demo purposes, we kept it simple, and we're just using a local system account. So we're going to now assign this application to our user. You can assign it to local users, directories, groups. You can make the assignment automatic, or you can make it user triggered. For the purpose of the demo, we did it automatic. We're going to refresh, go back to our desktop, and we're going to refresh our Workspace One portal. And you can now see that we have an active application. We have Dropbox. We'll go ahead and launch Dropbox. And through one click, we can get authenticated into that Dropbox application. Notifications is also useful, whether you have a lot of apps and your administrator deploys new apps. You can get notified of when those apps are deployed or if they've been updated. You can also configure shortcuts. So moving forward, we're going to switch to the consumer view. And this consumer view is the Windows 10 out-of-box experience. So this demonstration will walk you through an example of launching a Windows device for the first time. The user would input some settings or some credentials that they would be aware of ahead of time, answer a few questions, click on next, and the Windows device would then boot into a provisioning stage. And in that provisioning stage, you'll see here shortly where the Workspace One portal launches. There's a welcome screen that's customizable. The applications are then, adjusted and provisioned and modified as needed. So you'll see that here in just a second. So you'll see the Workspace One portal, the welcome screen launching. Now the welcome screen can be branded to your liking and your organization standard. It can be customized to say whatever you want it to say. But this is just a good example here of how the applications are loading and how the device is implementing those device and user profiles that you create in the Workspace One console, and then also the compliance rules associated with that. So once the Workspace One portal launches, it's the same experience whether you're mobile or on your desktop. You have your bookmarks, which are applications that you use frequently, and then you also have catalog. And under the catalog is applications you may or may not have, but you can bookmark. And to bookmark, you just simply click the little flag to the left, or to the right, I'm sorry, to bookmark an application. Workspace One's highly searchable, so if you can't find the app you're looking for, you can put in the name of the app, you can bookmark it, or you can launch it from the search window. We'll close this. One of the great things about Workspace One is the ability to launch an application and not have to remember the authentication creds. So that single sign-on experience here demonstrated with Office 365 you were able to launch Outlook and get in without any additional authentication. The users are also able to manage their profile. So let's say they want to change their password to the upper right, they can go in and put in their old password and change to a new password from within the Workspace One portal itself. Now, if you need a virtual desktop and you have Horizon, you can launch your Horizon desktop and go directly into and get your virtual desktop and your apps. For the purpose of the demo, we wanted to show the value of app vol. So we actually are going to user trigger the app vols. And what you'll see here is the app vol applications loading on that desktop. Normally, that would be automatic, but we wanted to show that, as a separate user trigger so you can see the applications load on firsthand. Now, the other good thing about the Workspace One is the security around multi-factor authentication. So if you launch an application that requires multi-factor authentication, it will simply work with your mobile device. In this scenario, it's VMware Verify. You can protect an individual app, or you can protect the entire Workspace One user portal. So it could be either or, maybe a combination of both. But the user experience, obviously, when they launch that protected app, they would get that secondary authentication. They'll answer a few tabs, and then your browser on Workspace One portal will be updated, and then you will gain access to that application. And one of the last things we want to show you is just kind of the mobile experience. So, the old AirWatch, you had to have an agent, you had to enroll it and get everything registered. With Workspace One, it's simply an app you download, and once you log in and authenticate to that app, you have access to your applications, and the user experience, again, is consistent across all devices. So once you launch your Workspace One, it'll give you a welcome screen while it's loading. And once it loads, you can then get into your applications. We'll click Allow. And then we will actually go in and launch one of our applications. So we're going to look for a native application. So the good thing about the catalog with an iOS or Android, not only does it show you the applications that corporate or IT have published, but it also shows you the native iOS and native Android applications that work in conjunction with Workspace One. So in this case, we're going to look for VMware Boxer, and we're going to install Boxer, which is a native app, through Workspace One. And the good thing about this is that it allows for the same credentials and that native iOS experience, but with the enterprise security. So the user would launch that application, may or may not have to log in. In this case, they are logging in with their user ID and password, and then get into their email. And then click OK. All right. Click Allow, and then boom, they have their email. Pause it just for a minute. So I know that was pretty quick, but one of the things that we want to show you is VMware Test Drive. VMware Test Drive allows you to get hands-on experience to not only Workspace One, but Workspace One Access, Horizon, and a couple other things. So this is an invite-only platform that you can get access to, and you can not only have pre-configured ready environments to work with, you can also have access to a sandbox environment so you can test with your own devices and your own applications. Go ahead and unpause it, Paul. So once you log into VMware Test Drive, you'll accept the license agreement, and then you'll get into the console. And then once you're in the console, you'll see that you have ready-to-use experiences, and then you'll have the sandbox experiences as well. Scrolling down here. Now, you can launch these ready-to-use experiences and then go through the walkthroughs. The walkthroughs are basically online lab guides The environments provide you the user creds, so you can gain access. You may have products that are not enabled. If you need to enable a product, you just simply click on Enable Product. It takes just a few minutes. It provisions on demand, and when that environment's ready and provisioned, it will allow you to launch it. And as you can see here, we can now launch that sandbox environment. It has the walkthrough for us, and then also provides us with our user ID and credentials. And if you don't have access to SaaS-based applications, but you need to test them, well, VMware also provides that. So you can access Dropbox, Office 365, and Salesforce on a test basis. And outside of the digital workspace products, they also have accelerated cloud products and networking and security products that you can also get hands-on experience and demonstrate. And over to the right of the screen, you'll notice help and support. They have two great sections, walkthroughs. Again, is that kind of on-demand, web-based lab guides that allow you to learn as you're walking through the test drive experience. And then they also have really good videos. So, prior to even doing a walkthrough or getting hands-on, you may watch some of the videos. They're great educational videos. They're all scenario-based, so they walk you through some real-world, Workspace One configuration. So that's it. Paul, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thanks, Steve. So now I think we're going to get to the Q&A, if there are any. Through the...
Yes. Hi. There's only one question in the queue right now. It says, do you see this as a replacement for Citrix as well?
Good question. So that's a maybe, or it's a depends. So it really depends on customer need and business needs. We do have customers who have replaced Citrix because this can provide what I feel and what we feel is a more robust solution across multiple stacks. Same thing when we have customers say, well, should I get rid of my SCCM or Intune? Or you can, most definitely, but it can also work together with those products. So I think it really comes down to use case, what the business issues you're trying to solve are. We have a customer who is slowly transitioning away from Citrix. They have a massive investment in Citrix. Support contracts that are in place for another couple of years, so it doesn't make sense to go out and buy this and then have a bunch of shelfware sitting out there. So I don't want to give a real ambiguous answer. I know that's what it sounds like I'm doing. It really depends. I see this definitely capable of replacing Citrix. I think it does everything that we can do with Citrix, especially when we tie on, Horizon, where we can do RDSH and desktop. I believe, end-to-end, the VMware solution, when we talk about a digital workspace, encompassing things like Horizon and AirWatch and Workspace One, I think end-to-end, it definitely can replace most of the things that we see today in kind of siloed stacks, with FCCM here and Citrix there for maybe application or desktop delivery and Horizon for pure desktops. I think it's a much more consolidated product set and feature set. But again, it depends on where you kind of sit in your journey and where you sit from an end user experience, what tools you have in place, and where it might make sense and when it might make sense to make that transition.
Okay, and we do have a couple other questions that have come in. Do you have any options for integrations and the out-of-the-box experience, including the integration of the Dell Command Suite solutions?
Steve, are you familiar with that? Steve, are you there? I'm not familiar with that. It's something we can definitely follow up on.
Okay, let's go on to the next question. Does WS1 integrate with Okta for SSO/MFA?
Yes, it does. It does integrate with Okta. There's a whole section of slides that I didn't even get into around Okta and what all integrations and things we can do with Okta. But yes, Okta is one of its primary integration points. We have customers integrated with Okta, Ping. What's the other one out there? There's another one out there I'm forgetting. But yes, there are integrations to Okta.
Okay, how can I use this to replace GPO level policies on Windows workstations?
So from a standpoint, there may be some gaps in here that we can't fill. As Steve pointed out around, policies, there is definitely an overlap between what we do with GPO and what is here in Workspace One native. So again, it's normally when we deploy this out to a customer, we'll end up doing kind of a full audit of what is out there from a GPO standpoint, mapping drives and those sort of things, versus what they're trying to do in the future. And we'll kind of do a gap analysis around, what feature sets can we pull out of, GPO or SCCM. And if there's anything left over, then they're managing a much smaller footprint in kind of the Windows management silo, right? The idea here is to ease the administration burden across devices, right? So there may be things that Workspace One today can't do that a native Microsoft tool can do, and that's a fair point. But what we're trying to do is create a consistent experience both on the consumer side and on the administrative side across all device types, right? So instead of having my silo for doing all of my Windows management over here, my silo for doing iOS devices over here, and my Android devices over here, we're trying to consolidate this up into a single point of management, right? And that's why some of these cross connects between SCCM and Workspace One exist, so that we can manage it through Workspace One, even though it might still be talking out to SCCM on the back end. You still have a single point of management. And I'm not going to say that's 100% perfect today, but we are working down that road. So to get back to the original question, there are definitely things that we can replace out of GPO into Workspace One. I'm not going to sit here and say that we can get rid of group policy altogether and not worry about it anymore. I think that would be a misstatement.
Okay, and the final question in the queue is, would this be as secure as Citrix?
Yes, I believe, especially with the integrations that are out there today with, the Trust Network, and that continues to evolve as well. Yeah, I would feel like this is, I would sleep fine at night replacing Citrix with this product.
Okay, that's it for questions. So to wrap it up, I'm just going to say thank you to Paul for taking the time to speak to us today. ECEI will contact the raffle winner directly after this webcast. As a reminder, you will receive a follow-up email with the on-demand link from today's webcast. To find out more about the VMUG webcast program, visit vmug.com and check out the education page. Please make sure to complete the short online evaluation that will pop up as you exit the webcast and let us know how today's session went. And from all of us here at VMUG, thank you and have a great rest of your day.